their skin in the game is to run across Texas, 850 miles, 35 miles a day over 2 weeks. How did that come to you?
Just another shitty idea. That's how it came to me. I'm just a Midwest boy, hit gravel roads at 16 and stealing beers out of, our neighbor's garage fridge. You can still throw a Zin in. You can still have a glass of whiskey. I'm still going to show people that they can do it, but you can also do it and just be a normal freaking.
What is the level of pressure that you feel right now?
No one knows this. 3 weeks ago, I put pressure on the left leg. Something's wrong. I started making phone calls. You need to take 6 months off. And we prayed and prayed and prayed. When you are being called to share a message, it will just eat you alive. That caused me to change my prayers from what I want to what do you want? What do you want me to do? I'm being set up to be able to tell this story of everyone said that it wasn't going to be able to happen. And it's gonna happen.
The night's still young. You live by the gun, you gonna die by the gun. Ain't no handouts.
Welcome back to another episode of the Meat Mafia podcast. On today's episode, we were joined by Matt Johnson. Right now, as we speak, Matt is running across the state of Texas. I don't know about you guys, but that is literally the craziest thing I've ever heard. And so we had Matt on the show before he started this journey just to sit down with us. And we wanted to go through his physical preparation, the mental preparation that he was going through. And then also we wanted to just talk to him about what it's been like just growing in his faith. We dove deep into all these topics. We talked about overcoming adversity. Matt was running into some injury issues during training, really to the point where he thought that he wasn't going to be able to run across the state of Texas. So seeing that he's already halfway across the state, it's exciting to see how his faith has pulled him through this far. And we're excited to watch Matt finish this race. But as you get into the episode, you're going to hear a lot about Matt's why. And the reason that Matt is doing this is for an organization called Valor Fit. Matt is ultimately raising money for different services that help service members, veterans reacclimate into normal civilian life. And so if you listen to this episode and get any sort of inspiration, we just highly encourage you guys to get involved, support in any way that means something to you. And without further ado, Matt Johnson.
So we tell the story quick before we get into it?
About you.
Yes, for the audience.
Yeah.
For the American Flag Ultra.
Yes.
You didn't do nicotine for the American Flag Ultra?
So
This is for my benefit.
So this is great. So I turned 30 June 28th. Mm-hmm. Every year Matt does an ultra marathon with the American flag. Matt's girlfriend Amanda grew up going to the Jersey Shore not far from where I'm from. So we were like, hey, let's combine. You want to do 30 miles. I want to do the American Flag Ultra. Let's do an ultra marathon together. The kicker is that I quit nicotine 2 weeks before that race. And I was so overheated and miserable that I was like, I told Dana, I was like, I need a couple citruses right now. So I chameleon licked a couple of them as sustenance to get me through.
But the worst part was that like he was trying to hold off. Like I was like, come on, brother, just do one. And he's like, no, I can't. We're like 18 miles deep and like Dana's on her way. Like she's on her way to like crew us with Amanda. And I'm like, just do one, bro. She won't even know. She won't even know. And then like she gets there and he just spilled the beans. He's like, I really needed some nicotine and I just need it right now. I'm gonna throw it in. Dana's like, okay, like all right. Dude. Okay, like do your thing.
Well, to be fair, I couldn't even see at that point.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. He was, brother, leave me. Leave me. Leave me.
All right, so we get to mile. So we did. Where do we start? Wild? No, we ran down to Wild.
We ran to
started
Wildwood,
in Avalon.
and that was 15.
Yep.
And then we turned around and like that was on the way back. So we did 30.
So 30
But
miles
then
there, and it's
I think the horseflies took your soul.
Yeah.
Really that bad.
Like
So we were in Avalon, New Jersey. Really nice part of the Jersey Shore. Like you think it's bone flat. July 4th, ocean's there. Matt's got the American flag. We got a police escort. All these people came out to support him. I'm like, oh, this is going to be like a walk in the park. What we didn't forecast, David Goggins' fiance Kish, she's from Avalon. So he talks about in his second book, the horseflies that come after you. So we hit mile 15. I'm matching his fueling strategy, which is nothing but 2 cans of Coke for 30 miles and
Not
Zins.
cocaine.
So at that point I was like 205, so I was cooked. And so we hit mile 18.
It's just like a huge, like just mental battle.
Yeah.
yeah, dude, he was fried when he showed up because he had like there was like a wedding the night before that he was up like doing receipts for Noble.
I pulled an all-nighter doing customer service tickets. Tell Harry and the listener about the horseflies, and then when Kane showed up and what I was.
So we're at 17. We're making our way back, and he's kind of like he's kind of like, I'm fucked. like just to be blunt there, like, you know, and this is at like 15 and I'm like, oh boy, like this is going to be a long 15 miles. So we get back and we hit 20, and at 20 you hit like the lowest point. Like we're already at like 0, right? Like sea level, but you hit this like lower point where you're in like this, like almost like Florida marsh, right? And next thing you know, like I'm like, ow. And I like hit my neck. And as I look over, his back is just covered in these black things.
Yes.
And I'm like, bro, like something's on your back. So then next thing you know, he's like slapping himself. I have the American flag and I'm like whacking it around, like trying to get these bugs. I mean, it was probably a good, like, we had to speed up. Like, I mean, we didn't like sprint out of there, but like we had to speed up. It was probably a good, like it was a good 30 seconds of like absolute chaos of just getting, like, imagine a bee sting.
Dude,
like,
I literally, as you were describing, I've been bitten by those things.
Yeah.
I like felt like I was getting bitten.
Yeah. And there was, I mean, honestly, there was probably eight to 10 of them on his back.
Yeah.
And it was right at that low point.
They just like chose to like suck.
Yeah. And the funny thing was, you know, fast forward, like we get done and the police officer that we were talking to, we're like, yeah, you know, these horse flies, like, yeah, down in the marsh. He's like, yeah, I forgot to tell you guys about that. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, it's like, this is like a normal thing. Like don't run there because you will get eaten alive.
And then we hit mile 18. And this guy Kane shows up, who lives at the Jersey Shore. He's like 6'5" mutant, training for a 100-miler, obsessed with Matt. Has followed Matt for like a year, big BPN guy. So he meets us at mile 18. He hadn't run a mile yet, so he's like whistling Dixie.
Biggest thing is during an ultra marathon, like you need to meet your runner at the intensity that they give you. And Brett had 0. He had nothing left. And I had, you know, I was just like, I was matching Brett. Like I'm like, fuck it. Like we're gonna just take this bad boy in. Like somehow we're gonna get there.
You were smoking and joking.
And Kane shows up and he's like, yeah, like and like within a mile, like Brett looks at me and he's like, I hate this guy. I hate this guy. I can't stand this guy. And it was just this like evil like mantra just took over his body.
Sometimes you need an evil force when you're out there on those runs. Like remember when Leach told us, dude, we were doing a
the habanero 100 that we didn't train for.
Bro, like we'd just finished the marathon, like 26 miles, and one of our buddies who was crewing us was like, yo, do you guys mind like picking up the pace? And we were like, we were both just like, dude, you're so
I was screaming.
But then it was like once we got to Wawa at mile 26, literally 26.2, right at the marathon point. Like we had 3.8 miles to go. And like I had to give like a Super Bowl halftime like pep talk here. Like I'm like, oh hey buddy, like we got 3.8 miles to go. Like you're the greatest thing that's ever happened. And he's like, yeah, I am. He's like I can do this. He's like, yeah. And I was like, we ain't walking, are we? And he's like, hell no, we ain't walking. And like
they got me like a quarter mile before I started
got
walking.
A quarter mile. And he's right back in the shit.
Was this before or after you shotgun the Red Bull?
This was right after. But the funny thing is, like, I went into Wawa. Like I truly wish that this was like because the video camera, the camera followed me into Wawa, but I wish it just stayed out there with Brett, because we get there and he's like, dude, he's like, just give me some ice and a blue Powerade. He's like, I'll be all right. I'm like, okay. So we walk in and I come out and this dude is hanging over the ledge, like head on the ledge, and Dana, his girlfriend's just rubbing his back. like you're okay, little buddy. You're gonna be okay.
I was inaudible.
You're gonna be okay.
Yeah.
And like it was just like I come out, it was chaos too, because then like Amanda, who's like my girlfriend, the sweetest thing in the entire world, some lady, like as we're in there, because Wawa's packed, it's the 4th of July, and some lady, like we were filming, and some lady's like, wow, how embarrassing is this? And Amanda, who I've never even heard ever like be upset or raise her voice, is like screaming at this lady in Wawa, telling her like, they're running for veterans and you are being mean. and this is going on, and I'm just trying to get out. And I know that Brett's having a stroke outside, and like there's just so much going on. Yeah. And in my head, like, relativity, I'm like, God, like this is so much for just 30 miles. Yeah. I'm like, there's like, we went to war. Like we were in it.
Well, what you said was I think you said to Amanda, you were like, this, because 30 for you is yours, really, that's the equivalent of my 100-mile race.
Yes. Yeah. When Brett showed up, I told Amanda, I said, this is Brett's, like, this is his ultra, like this is his 100.
Yeah.
And I knew going into that like, he wanted it so bad, and especially for like the 30th birthday, it was like, you know, no matter what, like I knew we were gonna go through it, and it was just like it was my job. You know, I ran less than a third of what like my typical race is, right? So like if your typical race is a marathon, you know, to compare that, like that was like running 8 miles.
Yeah.
And so I was like, no matter what, like we just gotta get Brett over the finish line.
Yeah.
And
well, and dude, whether you know it or not, too, I feel like that was a turning point for you. Just having,
yes,
like, you know, gotten across that finish line was probably such a confidence builder.
That was like a. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, we sat in the beach house afterwards, just us, because the girls had to like. They had to go take care of like logistics. Like there was some like logistical issues that were this car was left here and they had to pick this other car up here, and Kane ran all the way back with us and was like, I need a ride back. And like
Kane's a legend.
And yeah.
Kane is a legend.
Yes, 100%. And he had to ride, you know, get a ride back. So like we're sitting there, and you told me like I don't think I'll ever forget this, because it was like one of those moments where like we have a lot of serious talks, but like just your body language and the way that you said it, I was like, it almost kind of like blew my mind, where like we made it to like 24, and you were straight up like you were upset at me, like you're like leave me, like you're like you go, I will walk it in.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, absolutely not. And then when we were sitting there, I was like we started together, we're gonna finish together. That was a conversation we had at like 24. And then we're sitting there, and you're like, I was going to quit. And like you were so serious, like you're like I was going to quit, and you're like, I can't even sit here on this couch and imagine right now if I would have done that. And for me, like that's just there's so much in that in life, like in life and in business, and I mean, because you go through that every ultra, but like how many people out there quit and they never get to feel what you felt sitting there in the beach house that day, where you're like, I can't imagine. Like if I would have quit, you wouldn't like, yeah, it was only 30 miles, but like what you felt afterwards, like you did that for your birthday, you just turned 30, like what you felt, you would have never felt that ever in that moment. And now we look back at that video and we're like, dude, we get to watch this forever. Like we watch it, dude. We talk about it all the time. We watch snippets of it all the time. Like we have that documented forever.
Yeah. Harry and I talk about that a lot, about just the price to pay to create priceless memories like that. And I think it seemed like I was frustrated at you, but it really was frustration at myself.
Yeah.
Because I think what I realized was like our brand through Meat Mafia Noble, like it was built off the back of the Ironman, of doing the Habanero 100, these endurance races. And I realized that the last year I had almost become like a theorist, where I thought I knew all this mental framework, but I hadn't put myself in the lab in such a long time. And that was a moment remembering what you go through mentally, and also like your commitment of like, no, dude, you could obviously have just gone ahead and ran, but you wanted to do that and create that experience, which meant so much to me.
Yeah, I mean, it's very, like, it's cool to see, like, you know, you go through these waves in life in general. Like, you know, we relate it to racing because that's what, you know, I do because that's what I do. But, like, you go through these waves and life is a roller coaster, and you have to learn how to not jump off when it sucks. And that's the biggest thing is, you know, especially seeing, you know, like I remember that the day that we ran together, I don't know why this is it was probably one of the first times when I got the Mount to Coast shoes.
Yes.
I was showing them to you. And I remember like us running, and like we ran like 4 miles and your heart rate was like 190. You remember we were talking
maybe
about
200 though.
Yeah, I mean, I was gonna give you a couple beats down, but
you're like, dude, why are you breathing so heavy? I'm like,
but seeing that, and then like seeing you go through, you know, you went through the, you know, you ran, and then you didn't want to run, and you ran, and then, you know, we were gonna do the mile a day, and then, you know, as well as the business, and then into the 30 miler, and then now into doing Trips Challenge, and then also seeing you do the Chad, and for so many days, like just watching that is watching that. It's you're watching the roller coaster, and it's cool to see you guys because you're at such a high point right now, both of you. And, you know, I mean, it's just, it's cool to see. Like, I'm riding that high point as well, where you're always kind of like, okay, like, you know, when's the roller coaster going to just come on down, and you have to find that next high point. But, yeah, life's, you know, it's the roller coaster, and you have to ride it.
How do you think about yourself right now versus you just getting into the running space? Like, do you think about any moment in time when those, like, you're thinking about those first miles that you ever ran where you're like, I'm going to actually start taking this more seriously? Because, like, I can think back to some early miles that I ran, and they feel like, as hard as like any miles,
Yeah. Like I don't really, because like when I joined the military, like our PT test was like, we had to always be able to run like 2 miles in, 16 minutes. Like I remember going to basic training at 18 and I failed my very first PT test. You had to run 2 miles in a 16:36, which is like do quick math there, an 8:16 ish per mile. And I failed. I could not run 2 miles in 18:36. And I think about that. But then like, there's a lot of like gray area there, but I remember getting into running, and for me, it was like, it wasn't really the challenge, but I felt like early on in those years, like I was masking, like I felt like I for some reason I had to prove to everyone, like I had to prove myself to everyone. And I don't know why I had to do that, but like, I remember running the first time I ever ran 8 miles, and I texted my grandfather, and he was like, and I was just like, I ran 8 miles. And he's like, that is like so cool. I mean, but like, I know early on, like I always felt like I had something to prove. And then as I slowly started building the Instagram while I was still in the military, it was always like, I had to like, that's why I kind of, I had really big years, which is great. Like I was blessed to have, good years of racing, but like I would just race back to back to back because I always felt like, I finished 4th in the BPN marathon, and then I met Natasha, and Natasha's like, you should do an Ironman. And I was like, yeah, like I'm going to do the Ironman. And then, I did really good at the Ironman, and it was like, okay, like, now I should do another Ironman right away, and I should fill my schedule. And then it was like, oh, like Leadville reached out, like, you should do Leadville. And I was like, oh my gosh, like I need to go. Yes, I do. Like, I'll go do Leadville. And I had no business being there, and I didn't finish the race. And like, it was just, so much of trying to prove myself. And I feel like even the growth as a man, like I feel like that's a good thing to go through, where like, you don't have to prove yourself, but that is a very good thing to go through to be able to grow as a man and, as a human being in general. And you can take that in, I mean, that's in so many different aspects as well, like business, relationships, life. Like you always feel like you have something to prove, and to other people, and it's not. You can try to get like not caught up in that.
Totally. Yeah. With you saying that, I think it could be easy to look at your social media profile and be like, oh man, it must be incredible to have what he's having. And I think the way Harry and I perceive you is that the amazing success that you've had the last year, really since we knew you, because when I met you, I think you had 30,000 followers. Now you're, almost at 300,000. I think your success is directly in proportion to the amount of risk and skin in the game that you have. And I think the ultimate example of your skin in the game is the run across Texas, 850 miles, 35 miles a day over 2 weeks, literally running from West Coast all the way through the state. How did that come to be? And I'd love to just tell the listeners about that.
Yeah. Just another like shitty idea. That's how it came to be.
Yeah.
I went to Squatch. Like I still remember the exact spot that I was at. Like I was at Squatch. And I don't know what happened. Like, I don't know. Like, I always tell that story, like, because I found David Goggins, and that's how I got into running. And I'm like, I don't even remember how I stumbled upon the book, right? But, like, for me, like, I don't remember, but I do remember sitting in and I posted this yesterday on my story. You probably saw it, the text to Bobby Daughtry.
Yes.
And I was sitting in my truck, and it popped in my head. And I texted Bobby, and then I immediately texted Drew Darby, who's he's one of my best friends here in Austin. And I was like, I want to run across Texas. And in that moment, I didn't think that anyone had done it. And that was kind of, intriguing to me. And I texted Bobby, and Bobby was like, you're a nightmare, but hell yeah. And then Drew was like, dude, that sounds cool. It's been done. And I'm like, shit, so that's how it came. It was really just, it popped in my head. And, over the last year, because it was, a year ago yesterday, it's been 366 days now. So much more has come of it. So much more clarity about why the idea came to my head, why, it's going to happen. But yeah, it was a simple idea that was once again just acted upon immediately. I love to act on things and then figure it out later. I'm very much like a shoot first and we'll ask questions later, which is good and bad at the same time.
Yeah.
What's come to you for clarity in terms of just like why you want to go after something like this?
Yeah, so the why has changed. I actually talked about this on a podcast yesterday. The why has changed so many times. And I feel like your why in life can just change by the day, right?
It'll probably
like,
change while you're on the run.
100%. Yeah, because the question I got was like, why? And I'm like, you should ask me when I'm done. And, so the why originally, was because I was like, I want to push myself. And then the why turned into, well, if I'm going to do something like this, then, how can I use my platform to boost it? And then it was like, okay, now that I have this platform, how can I use this platform for good while I do it? And then, it also turned into, something that I think in my entire, especially in the last like 4 months leading up, where like I have built my faith through this run and through things that have happened and, trial and error, that like I have never in my life been closer to God than I am now. And I believe that I fully have an open door access to God through my faith. Like I've never felt closer and, more confident through all of these trials and errors than I ever have in my entire life. But I think, this is how it came, but the why is so unclear.
What is the level of pressure that you feel right now? Because at the time of recording this, we're about 3 weeks out. So I think by the time this is released, you'll either have just started the race, maybe a little bit before, a little bit after. But by the time the listener is viewing this, you'll probably be in the midst of the race. What is the pressure like 3 weeks out? Or do you not perceive that as pressure?
No, I don't feel any pressure. And this is something that like I've spoke on before, and this is a no bullshit answer. Like I never hit the start line, and I'm never nervous. Like I never question, because I always know that whatever is meant to be is meant to be. And for some reason I can, a lot of people can't grasp that. And for me, like I know I can. I feel like it really took a lot of pressure off by, not trying to set the record. And, the fastest time across Texas is 18 days. Originally I just originally set the mileage at 50 a day, and that turned into being 17 days, but it's never been about that. And here's the thing, it can't be about that because I'm not running the route that was ran. I can't take that record because our mileage is actually less, and he ran to the Louisiana border. We're running to Galveston. So I wanted it to make, by taking pressure off myself, I made it my own. And, no one's ever came through Austin during the 4 or 5 people have done it. No one's ever came through Austin. It's been through Waco or San Antonio, and no one's went to Galveston. And so I feel like, I did as much as I could to remove that type of pressure. I think about Paul Johnson last year, who was raising money for RWB this year in the spring, and it was all about the record. And, it was like, I'm going to set the record for the fastest time across the United States. And I feel like that just adds so much pressure that, I love the saying that if you don't have expectations, you can't be like, you won't ever be disappointed. So if you don't have expectations, you're not going to have any disappointment. And my expectation, the only expectation I have is that we're going to move across Texas. And whether that takes, 17 days at 50 miles a day, or whether that takes 30 days at 28 miles a day, we're going to move across Texas.
One of the things I love about your content is that you always have fun. Like it's this I was telling this to Ned before we hit record, that you somehow blend together inspiration, but then also just like, having fun and entertaining people. And I feel like bringing that into something as crazy as running across the state of Texas is really huge, because if you put too much pressure on yourself, like you're going to be on mile 400 and just be like your own mental pressure will just break you. Whereas like if you're just enjoying the ride, like you'll get there.
Yeah. Like, and that's a big thing. That what you said about the Instagram and the platform is, it's that came from Matt Choi, where Matt Choi and I had a conversation last September, and it was like, in order to be good on social media, you have to learn how to tell a story. And for me, it was like, I think all of these creators and, influencers and people with followings, they just doubled down on like, what got me here, right? Which is great, but it's like, it's just repetitive. It's the same thing over and over and over and over and over. And for me, like even in this lead up to the run across Texas is like, I've been doing these countdowns, like 100 days out, 50 days out, 30 days out. But in between all these videos, like I'm still doing the crazy shit that I'm doing, and, my behind the 7-Eleven talks, and, ads here and there and all that type of stuff. But like, I don't want to, you know, I want to use this platform to be able to, like, I want people to see that, you know, you can be an elite level athlete and still be a normal person. You can still throw a zin in. You can still have a glass of whiskey. You can still smoke a cigar, smoke a cigarette. Like, you know, I mean, it's just, I feel like everyone gets so complicated and, you know, into fitness that like they lose the fact of like, this is your life. Like you can still enjoy things in life. And if you don't enjoy any of the things I said, that's perfectly fine too. But like, you know, I'm still going to show the things that I enjoy. I'm not going to hide it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting where like the mileage in the endurance pursuits that you tackle are in some ways maybe like unapproachable to the average person, but who you are as a person is extremely approachable. Like I feel like you just don't take yourself too seriously at all. And you're also very unfiltered. So I think people feel like they actually know you, and the way you are off camera is exactly how you are on camera too. And it's very rare to meet people like that. Yeah,
definitely. Like I was talking with a friend the other day that like he was talking about YouTube, and he's like, yeah, man, like when the camera turns on, he's like, I'm a completely different person. And like, I understood what he was saying, but also at the same time, I was like, you know, it kind of hit me where I'm like, that's not the same then, you know, like, and yeah, I mean, for me, it's like, you know, I'm just showing like, I'm just a Midwest boy who, you know, I hit gravel roads at 16 and we were stealing beers out of, you know, our neighbor's garage fridge. And, you know, that I'm just doing the thing, and I'm not going to change who I am in that entire process. And, you know, I'm still going to show people, like I said, like that they can do it, but you can also do it and just be a normal freaking person.
Yeah. Do you want to have kids?
Yeah.
I envision your kids being able to watch this experience as being a really cool motivator for you. Just being able to kind of show them like this challenge that you're going after, but you're like documenting the whole thing. So they're going to be able to see like their dad in this moment. Like you're really hitting your stride in a lot of ways, but going after this challenge and showing like your character through it all, and just the man that you have become and are becoming just being on full display. I think it's a really cool frame for you as you kind of enter this period, like, and your kids are going to be able to watch this video. It's going to be a really cool moment for you.
Yeah, that's something, you know, that we've talked about is like this will live on for a very long time. And especially like keying the term run across Texas. All of these people that have seen this once are now like every time they hear run across Texas, they're going to think about what we're going to do or what we have done, you know, once that it's passed. And yeah, I think it's very cool. Like, you know, there's YouTube videos up from, you know, 20 years ago. And, you know, in that aspect of, you know, my children being able to watch this and see, you know, being able to understand like where I came from and where I'm at now, where I'm going to be then, and like all the things I did in between is just like, it can be a butterfly effect of just, you know, I mean, not just my children, but like, you know, there's like everyone in my family is seeing this, you know, and seeing like what we're about to do, and just gonna, you know, it's going to change so many lives, not just through Valor Fit, but, you know, through people watching it as well.
One of the things that I've noticed about you too is like your personal brand has grown so much the last year that I find that sometimes when people grow so quickly, there's almost like an identity gap to where their identity struggles to catch up to the level of success, and it changes a lot of people. But I feel like you do a really genuine job staying grounded. And I'm just curious, like, do you do anything on a daily basis? You mentioned your relationship with God, but what do you do to continue to stay grounded and not take yourself too seriously, or like let all that attention get to your head?
Yeah, you know, I feel like, you know, for me, it's not really been, you know, transparency. Like, it's not really been about the attention. It's always been about the money. And, you know, because, you know, I mean, I went from, you know, like I grew up with a single mom, and like we were so broke. Like, you know, my mom would buy a 99-cent thing of macaroni and like watch me eat it.
Yeah.
And so for me, like, and that is so true. And for me now, it's like, for some reason, you know, I'm making very, very good money, and it's just like, you know, now it's like, okay, I almost feel like it makes me stay the same because I think I have this scarcity mindset of like, I have it and I need to make sure that I don't lose it. And, you know, I don't go out. Like, I don't go blow money. Like, if we're going to do it, if we're going to spend money on anything, like, we're going to go travel, you know, like, so for me, it's like, I'm, you know, trying to live in this mindset of just, you know, remembering where I came from. And at the same time, you know, thinking about, okay, if I'm smart now and this success continues, then, you know, I can set myself up for later. I feel like right now, like I'm really toned back because it's like, how can I, you know, I'm not gonna be able to run forever, you know, maybe 20 years, maybe, right? That would be sick. But at some point it's gonna stop. And, you know, at some point I'm not gonna want to do content anymore. And, you know, so it's kind of being that, I don't know if the word scarcity, but like being in that mindset of like, if I grind right now and just stay true to who I am right now, then, you know, later on is, you know, when I can reap the benefits.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Is that a
yeah.
kind of answer to that?
Yeah. I feel like you're, like you recognize the momentum that you have and you realize that with this momentum, like you can build businesses and set yourself up in the future so you can just take care of your family, whether it's your kids, Amanda, your mom, etc.
Yeah.
Like you're already like thinking 5 steps down the road, which is really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's like, you know, being put in this situation to where like, you know, like my little brother just moved to Austin, and like being able to like hire him through my LLC and putting him on payroll to like come out and drive the truck, you know, to film us, or, you know, come out to the Run Across Texas. So he's a private chef. So we're going to have him come out during the Run Across Texas and he's going to cook. Like that's going to be his job, is to cook everyone food and like have lunch for everybody, have dinner for everybody. And like, you know, at the same time, like being able to help my mom when I can with, you know, things that she needs. And, you know, so it's, you know, having that, you know, just keeping the servant's heart and, you know, and understanding that like, I am the one that is blessed to be in this situation. And, you know, and remembering and taking care of those who were there with me when we didn't have shit.
It makes me think about just how, you know, God really wants our gifts to be multiplied, and you not being selfish with just the things that are coming into your life, and getting your brother to drive the truck, and, you know, having other people being able to benefit from the success that has come into your life is only going to breed more of those benefits. Is there anything, or more of those blessings? Are there any stories that you envision being able to tell more, like whether it's like from your past or just things that you kind of think about on a day-to-day basis that you want to tell throughout the run? Or you just think those will just kind of come to you as you're out there?
Like stories.
I'm just thinking, like, you know, if there's, you know, anything that like sits on your heart on a regular basis that you're like, you know, this is something that you know, like a Goggins like moment where it's like, you know, stay hard, or just things that are important to you that you want to like see on the other side of this documentary, on the other side of you finishing this run.
Yeah. You know, I want people to know, you know, I want people to know that you know, like, this isn't like, when you think about 850 miles, like you're like, that's how is that possible?
It's literally a flight,
right? Like, yeah, yeah. You know, God, I want people to see God in this, and that is so true. Like, you know, I spent, you know, I was baptized. I came back from basic training and got baptized, and immediately like kind of just walked away from God for 10 years. And, you know, I mean, I have cross tattoos and like I've always carried, you know, Christianity with me. But for me, it was like, you know, especially, you know, this winter, you know, getting back into church, going to Red Rocks and, you know, diving into the Word, and then, you know, really, you know, reading about things and, you know, for me, it's like, it's showing people, you know, if you're like, wow, like how do you do that? That's crazy. Like, I don't think that's possible. It's kind of telling people like what you're about to see is not of me, but of God. And, you know, there's been a lot of hiccups in this process that have, you know, happened in the training, and, you know, a lot of things that have tried to make this not happen, and it's still continuing to happen. And so for me, you know, I think it's truly just I just want to spread God's word while we run. And the fact of, what we're doing is like my entire life has changed because like I'm convinced my entire life has changed because of God and because I've allowed God back in my life. And I feel such a calling that like during this run, it's just telling people that or showing people that like, yes, I trained for this, but this feat is not just of me, but, of a higher power as well.
I mean, the evolution of the run across Texas itself is really cool because it started off you kind of getting hit with this inspiration at Squatch, being like, I want to do it to push myself. Then it was, I really want to raise money for veterans through Valor Fit. But really the culmination of this whole thing is to spread awareness around God and Christ and what he's done in your life.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah. So, yeah. When's this come out? During the run across Texas?
We can batch it out.
Make it whenever.
Yeah. So 3 weeks ago, I'm out running. Actually, let's go a year ago. A year ago, I fractured my left leg in 3 spots. And 3 weeks ago, randomly, as I'm out running, like it was a random Wednesday, and I went out running and everything was good. I woke up on Thursday and I stepped out of bed. I put pressure on the left leg and I was like, something's wrong. I was like, something is very wrong. Completely out of nowhere. And woke up on Friday, took Thursday off, woke up on Friday and went to run my normal 10-mile route, 5 out, 5 back. And I had to cut it and move back to the house. Only ran 5 miles, and it took me like an hour and 10 minutes to go 5 miles. I was like, something is completely wrong with my leg. So that Friday, was it that Friday? You came over, right?
Yep.
Randomly, because Nick was here. We came over and we were talking about it, and it was to the point where we're like, okay, we need to go find out what's going to happen. And so Nick, Amanda, Brett, and myself all literally just sat in my living room and prayed to God that like everything was going to be okay and that the leg was fine and life is good. And no one knows this. And I mean, I know you don't even know it because we've kept this really on the down low. And Saturday went by. I woke up Saturday and my leg was still messed up. Sunday still messed up. So I'm online and long story short, I find a place in Dallas, $800 for a 90-minute turnaround MRI. So Amanda and I wake up at 5 a.m. We drive to Dallas on Monday morning. We get an MRI and we turn around and come back, and within an hour I get an email. And in both spots, so I had a fracture in the top of the tibia and the bottom of the tibia. In both of those spots, there was not a fracture, which we prayed that there was not a fracture. There was not a fracture, but there was bone edema, which is swelling and bruising of the bone, as well as fluid on my ankle and Achilles tendonitis that they were saying that they were seeing. And I started making phone calls, one after another, to this PT and that PT and this PT that's an ultra runner and this ortho that has done 100-milers. And it was like, you need to take 6 months off. You need to take 6 weeks off. You need to put it in a boot. You need to not run for 3 months. Like it was all of this. And so I sat in that and I'm like, fuck, like what now? And over 2 weeks, it was like, okay, I'm like, okay, like I'm not going to run. And we prayed and prayed and prayed and prayed and prayed and prayed and prayed that it was okay. Like just speaking things over myself that like I am healed, and met with the pastor of Red Rocks and sat with him for almost 3 hours and told him my entire story and what was going on. And we prayed with him, and it's been 3 weeks and we're good to go. And I mean, I had my, a lady that does a lot of my body work came over, and she said that she was doing research on it because PEMF can help with bone, which is this pulse electromagnetic therapy. And, even she said to me, she's like, how are you feeling? She's like, when I was doing my research, I read that it takes 5 months to heal. And I'm like, I'm doing great.
Yeah.
I was like, I am doing so good. So for me, it's being able to guys remember when Conor McGregor broke his ankle and still went out and won the title fight?
Oh yeah.
It's me being able to go and do this and you know, I'm being set up to be able to tell this story of everyone said that it wasn't going to be able to happen. And it's going to happen. You know, like that is I believe that is a straight setup from God to help spread the word of what he can do. And, you know, I didn't want to come out with it. Like, I didn't want to just come out and just be like, hey, everyone, I'm hurt. Like, Brett and I had this conversation so many times about, you know, like, I took 2 weeks off and my Strava said 0, and my first run back, like, people were commenting on it, like, oh my gosh, like, I thought you were hurt. Like, I thought something was wrong. You know, people have way too much access to you at this point. And, you know, so for me, it's, you know, like I said, like earlier, it was trials and tribulations. And, you know, it was getting through these things and everything that has been happening this entire time. And I talked to Ethan about this, the pastor up at Red Rocks, is I'm like, everything that has been happening, I see God in it. And I'm like, I can't, like, I'm like, make it go away. Like, you know, and that's what he, you know, he was like, this is what happens. He's like, you know, when you are being called to share a message, he's like, it will almost just eat you alive if you know. So then, like, that caused me to change my prayers from what I want to what do you want? What do you want me to do? And what do you want me to say? What do you want me to show people? What are your plans for me? And, you know, and that has really, like, there was a 3-week period there where I lost all my confidence. Like, where I was like, oh no, like, I'm doing math on, like, okay, if I run this many miles, that's going to be 35 days, you know, trying to figure out, like, you know, we were talking about pushing it back. Like, do we push it back? And, you know, all of this. And then, yeah, here we are. That was a long story short.
It's a great story.
Were there any prayers that you heard or any words that you heard during that 3-week period of just that uncertainty doubt that stand out to you? Yeah.
So, and I can't even tell you the Bible verse, and I don't even know where I got it. I think I told you about this, and it was, for I know the plans I have for you. And that was what, like, that kept coming to me over and over and over again. And even to where, like, I went to Ethan at Red Rocks, and I'm like, I think God's, like, giving me a vision. And I'm like, and I'm not one that's like, I ain't no prophet. I'm not, like, I'm trying to talk this down, right? Like, I'm like, tell me it's not true. Like, it's not me, right? I'm like, me? You know, why me? And, like, I'm trying, like, to tell this pastor to tell me that I am wrong. And he wouldn't do anything but say, you might be right. And, you know, so that's been, you know, it's been a huge thing where, like, even I told Brett, like, you know, we're going to raise all this money for Valor Fit, but maybe it's not really about Valor Fit. Maybe it's just really spreading the word of God to everyone that joins along the way.
That MRI story is really important too, because you had first fractured your leg a year ago. So you know,
1 year ago.
1 year ago. You know exactly how it feels for your leg to be fractured. And when I was with you that weekend, you were like, I'm 100% sure it's back.
Yeah.
So then you get the MRI, the fracture's not there. There's some swelling, way better outlook than what you'd hope for. After we had prayed over it, you had prayed over it. I feel like that's God saying, give me everything and I will take care of you for this race. Like, watch what I can do.
I think I said to Amanda and Ethan as well, is I was like, I am 100, like, I know God does not hurt people, but I feel like Jesus might kick you in the shin. And then, like, that is, you know, that's kind of where it was, because I was going down this path of, like, I remember a year ago where I was, you know, I promised myself when this happened, because I was overdoing it. I was doing too much, but I didn't do anything wrong during this training. Let me say that. Like I followed the plan to a T. And I didn't overdo anything. I didn't do anything wrong. It just happened. And, you know, but at the same time, I had a whole bunch of friends that were like, dude, like, you look like shit. You know, I mean, because, I mean, yeah, I probably do look like shit. I'm running 150 miles a week. Like, it hurts, you know? But, like, at the same time, like, I remember, you know, as soon as I stopped running for about 4 days, I host a men's call on Monday nights where we just chat. And we got off the call, and one of my buddies, Jimmy Wise, he texted me, and he has no idea what's going on. And he texted me, and he's like, you finally look like you again. And that was almost like, to me, like that was almost God speaking through him to me, saying like, you're finally you again. Now that you've slowed down, you're finally you again. Because this running was putting so much, like, I was barely, like, you and I talk every day. I was barely even talking to you. I wasn't, like, I went 2 days without talking to Amanda, my girlfriend, who she was out in Avalon. Like, I wasn't talking to her. Like, just shit was going wrong.
Shutting down.
And yeah, like I was just, there was too much going on. And yeah, it was just kind of like hey, hold up. Like, like there was a Bible verse that, and I can't even tell you where it was, and I'm probably not going to quote it right, but I opened the Bible. I think I might have sent it to you, but I asked Ethan because I'm like, once again, I was trying to, like, disprove everything that's going on. And I'm like, hey, like, if I read this, like, I know I'm reading it out of context, out of the Bible, but I feel like it's literally directly speaking to me. Like, I randomly opened the Bible and I saw it, and I don't want to say it was God, but is it God? Because I don't want to say it is, because then I'm going to feel bad because I'm saying that it's God and it's not. And he's like, hold up. And it was a verse, and it was somebody writing a letter to the church. And I don't remember the exact verse, but it was something along the lines of like, I'm sorry that I hurt you, but it was in the plan to bring you closer to me. And I read that on like day 4 of this, and I was like, whoa, and there's so much, there's so much more behind this. And that's why, like, I can't, we're going to run 850 miles across Texas. We're going to raise thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars for a veterans charity. We're going to change so many people's lives in that process. But at the same time, to me, in the furthering the kingdom and, doing the, like, showing people that, like, you don't need to be this picture perfect Christian. You don't need to be this picture perfect Christian to spread the word of God or to tell people about God. Like, you don't, that I feel like so many people are pushed away from Christianity because of, like, the way that people act towards them. And you need to live like this, and you need to do this, 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 and this. Like, yeah, okay, I get it to an extent, but, for me, it's people putting their eyes on me and seeing this and being like, oh, like, he's like that, but he's a Christian as well. And that was something that I had a conversation with Ethan about too. Like, I'm like, dog, if you go and you look at my Instagram as a pastor, I'm like, I probably wouldn't sit here and just show it to you.
Yeah.
Like, I told him that straight on.
Smoking a cig.
Like, yeah, like I was like, honestly, I'd probably be a little ashamed of, like, things that I'm, showing you on my Instagram. And, and he can't, I was trying to get this man to tell me that, like, yeah, you're right. You are messed up, like, and he wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
And he was like, Jesus sat with sinners. Jesus ate with tax collectors. Like maybe, maybe this is just him using you to bring more people that wouldn't do it on their own.
Yes.
Or are scared to do it. To show that, like, you don't need to be the picture perfect person. And so I'm like, okay, so you're telling me I can still rip ciggies and bring people to God? I got it.
Good.
I got it. And he's like, nah. He's like, nah, what I'm saying, but
Yeah.
So for me, yeah, it's just, yeah, like there's so much going on.
There's so much, man, and that's why we love doing what we do. Is you're never gonna get this context in a 30-second Instagram clip. Just hearing these long form conversations, everything that got on behind the scene. This is gonna be part 1, and we're gonna release a part 2 after we finish the run across Texas. And we're coming up on time in the studio.
And you're going to be there.
I will be there.
You haven't told anyone that.
I will be there. I'll be crewing you.
Yeah, he's going to be there the whole entire time.
Got to figure out logistics for this New Jersey
Poor guy.
Run, but we'll work around that.
Poor guy.
Bro, I'm gonna have to come in.
No, we got to. Yeah,
for sure.
Absolutely.
Where can people follow along for the challenge?
Yeah. So number one thing I want to push is runacrosstexas.org. You can find out everything. You can track us. You can donate. You can find all the bios for the crew. You can see all of the brands that are involved. There's brands that have put thousands of dollars towards this to make sure that it can happen for veterans. So, the brands that you see that are supporting us, please support them. And then, if you want to follow along live, that's going to be on my Instagram at Matt Johnson with 2 underscores. Starting on October 1st, we're going to, we'll be flipping reels every day and stories and, all of that. But, number one place I want to push everybody is runacrosstexas.org. You can read about Valor Fit there. Their mission is to put veterans into the fitness space. The fitness space is what changed my life. So that's why we want to raise money for them. And yeah, there's a hour-long YouTube video of the entire thing. Going to launch in Q1 next year. Can't wait for that. Going to probably do like a private viewing here in Austin at the Draft House down there in Mueller. But yeah, I'm hyped to get this thing behind me.
Dude, well, it's going to be an exciting ride, and just pumped for you. We'll be watching along. It's going to be amazing.
Absolutely. I appreciate it.
Appreciate you, bro. Thanks for the friendship. Thanks for doing what you do. And it's just going to be an amazing chapter, dude. A lot of good stuff to come.
Let's rip it.
Cool.